Our next speaker is Nikki Kateman. She is the Political and Communications Director for Local 338 of RDWSU and UFCW, a labor union that represents approximately 13,000 members throughout New York State and Northern New Jersey. And as Lynn said, this will be the home union of future marijuana workers in the industry. She was part of the coalition that helped pass the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act. And she speaks from the perspective of ensuring equity for the new industry's workforce. Nikki is a member of the executive board of the Women's Network, a member constituency group within UFCW focused on issues specific to working women and their families. She serves as the secretary and board member of Local 338 Charities, a 501c3 organization that supports working families in need. She is a member of the board of directors for two worker-centric nonprofit organizations, Workforce Development Institute, as is Mary Jane, and you'll hear from her in a little while, and Long Island Jobs with Justice. She is also a union delegate for the Long Island Federation of Labor, AFL-CIO, and the New York City Central Labor Council. She holds a certificate in advanced labor union leadership from the New York State AFL-CIO Cornell University Union Leadership Institute. Welcome, Nikki.
Thank you so much, Donna, and thank you to Sparrow and Sandy and Richard for inviting me here to talk. If there's one thing people know about me, I love to talk about cannabis and cannabis policy. So to give a little, I think it's probably helpful to give a little bit of context about our work in New York State around cannabis policy. Lynn gave a really good level set for what's happening nationally across the country. And quite honestly, even in Canada, the UFCW represents workers in cannabis industry in Canada. And then I'll talk a little bit about our members in this industry. So we came to cannabis policy in New York State in about 2012, 2013, when New York was looking to pass the Compassionate Care Act, which was to create New York's medical cannabis program. And it was one of those issues that had a moral calling to us because of a colleague we knew who was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer around the same time. So it became a very moral issue to us, but in that moral issue was recognizing that this was a multi-billion-dollar industry, and that if we were creating a brand new industry, which is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, we needed to do it in a way that made sure that the workers entering that workforce were protected, and more than just protected, had quality union careers. And I'll get into a little bit about that. So we, in the Compassionate Care Act, helped draft the language around the labor peace agreement, and helped, along with all the incredible advocates in that space, patients, their caregivers, pulled that legislation across the finish line in 2014. And then we stayed engaged on cannabis policy because while the medical cannabis program was really important to get started, anybody who's a patient in the space, works in the space, will tell you that it is still a restrictive program and that there's still a lot of improvements to be done to improve patient access, and we're still working on today. And because of that work, we continue to stay engaged on cannabis policy in New York State. When our state finally got serious about passing the MRTA 2018, or varying versions of that, we jumped back very wholeheartedly in the fray and wanted to ensure a few things, right? Is ensuring that there was expanded access to the medical program, because we heard from many, many people that it was too expensive, and that's part of equity, ensuring there was equity to accessing medicine, but then talking about equity in terms of ownership, but also workforce. And in a lot of the conversations we were hearing was equity and access and opportunity for entrepreneurship, which is critical, super important, but recognizing that not everyone wants to be an owner, not everyone will end up getting a license, and we need to make sure that we're supporting those individuals who are getting into the cannabis industry as a worker. And so we worked very hard to make sure that labor peace agreements continue to be a component of the bill. And I just saw your question, Sarah, so I'll answer that. And So
I just put in the chat what it was, so they're ready.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Sorry. I'm still not good at this, like multitasking on Zooms. And part of that conversation with ensuring not just the quality careers, which again, I'll get into because we're really proud of the standards we created, but was recognizing too that there are going to be 30 to 60,000 new jobs created. And we want to make sure a few things, right? Because one of the drawbacks to the medical program where there were restrictions on who could work in the industry. So that included, if you had any sort of conviction history around a cannabis offense, you were barred from employment in the industry, which was patently unfair. And so with the MRTA ensuring sealing expungement, that's going to open doors for plenty of people who are excited about being in this industry and who have been barred because of unfair conviction histories. So that was critical number one. Critical number two was also around workforce development and training. And we partnered with WDI, Cornell's ILR school, specifically their labor employment law program. I'm sure Mary Jane's going to touch on that, so I won't steal too much away from that, but to ensure that there's a pathway for education for workers who are brand new to this industry, but also acknowledging that there are workers who are operating in the legacy market currently. And we want to make sure that there is a pathway for people who have been in this space for a long time to be in the regulated market, because we're not helping anybody if we're not acknowledging that there's a robust cannabis economy in New York currently. And we need to work with those individuals to bring them into these jobs as well and those opportunities, and share our commitment to ensuring jobs for everybody. And that means partnering with community-based organizations, which we've done, and our elected officials. So that's a little bit of background on our work. This is about a decade, almost a decade's worth of policy smushed into a few minutes, but I'm really proud of it and happy to answer any questions. So what do the jobs look like? So we have labor peace agreements with all of the companies in New York State, and we represent about currently 70% of the industry. We're by the end of the summer anticipating that to be 90%. And we have the contracts that we're incredibly proud of. And organizing happens at different times. And I can say with confidence, we had a number of situations where we went into cannabis facilities and, the workers said to us, we're so happy you're here because it means, wage increases, they weren't being offered health benefits, or if they were unaffordable, very traditional sort of issues you'd see in any industry were happening in the cannabis space, right? But there's another element to this, which is why we were so adamant about labor peace agreements being in the bill, was we had seen firsthand through traveling the country and working with the UFCW and other states, how rife this industry was for exploitation. We're talking it wasn't happening in New York, so I'll be clear about that, but this is things we heard on the West Coast was people being paid in product, which is not sustainable for anybody. You can't pay rent, or I guess you can, but when we're talking about an industry like this, right, we want to protect workers, and paying somebody in product puts them in direct harm's way potentially. So, so our contracts guarantee wage increases. We're mostly full-time jobs. And just for clarity, we represent, because currently the industry is vertically integrated, so we represent the entire supply chain. So we represent people who are cultivating cannabis, or processing and manufacturing cannabis, or delivering cannabis, distributing cannabis. So every job title you can think of in this space, those are members of Local 338. And we're very, very proud of that. But we have, one of the testaments we've done is ensure what cannabis careers can look like. There's very low turnover in this industry because our members feel invested in by the company, and the companies are held accountable to ensure that they continue to invest in their workforce. Because as Lynn said, these are highly profitable businesses. People are making lots of money. They're operating in multiple states. And we want to make sure that they're continuing to invest in their workers and sharing the bounty, I'll say. And that's something we intend to maintain in the adult use industry as it comes online, because again, these are incredible opportunities. We're seeing really, really good jobs and this is removing stigma from people too. But the other thing as well, there are other components of this too, besides the traditional, good jobs, good wages, good benefits. But Lynn referenced that there are safety concerns, right? And we're talking people are dealing with equipment that are, if misused, can be mini bombs. We're talking about this is a cash industry. There are actual physical safety and security concerns that we work with the state and we work with employers to uphold and maintain. But this is still a federally illegal substance. And our members have encountered issues with banking. And so we've been working with them, working with our employers to make sure that they're able to overcome those, those things that you may not think about as something that is a barrier to somebody working in this industry. So there are a lot of different things that come up over the course of the last several years of representing workers in this industry, but it's been critical because we've helped people navigate what to do if they can't roll over their 401k because, their financial institution flags them for working for a drug cartel, which is literally something that's been said to us. So, we're really excited about this space, very proud of the standards we've established, and we're excited about what this industry can be. But the only way this industry will be successful is companies abiding by labor peace agreements, but also ensuring that they are hiring from communities that have been disproportionately impacted by prohibition, so that when we talk about equity in the workforce, that actually reflects that as well. So we're looking forward to working with all of our community partners, but also working with the industry to make sure that they uphold their commitment to that responsibility as well.
Thank you so much, Nikki, and we'll hear from you again during the Q&A.